What is going on, guys? Today we're previewing the Dallas Cowboys versus the Washington football team this Sunday at 1 o'clock in Landover, Maryland. So this is going to be our first game in a few weeks that's not at home, and that kind of concerns me. I mean, not that we've been playing great at home by any stretch of the imagination, because we've been horrible lately, right? But at the same time, we've probably gotten kind of comfortable with just playing at home, and this is going to be in Maryland at home for the Washington football team, and I'm not sure if there's going to be fans there or not. That's not something I've looked into, but if there are, that could be just another concern to topple onto our thousands of lists of concerns already, right? So right now, my number one concern would be the left tackle position, because as of today, which this video is being filmed on Thursday, so when it's posted, we might have something announced, but as of now, I don't think there is a named starting left tackle. So we know that Brandon Knight just had surgery following the loss last week against the Arizona Cardinals, Monday Night Football, and I don't think we've named a starting left tackle. Now, I do know that Cam Irving maybe participated in practice, and he's somewhat likely to play as of now, and so he could potentially be the starting left tackle. And I guess there probably isn't a big drop-off from Brandon Knight to Cam Irving. Cam Irving may even be the better player, although I never like what I've read about the guy. And as far as his time starting in Kansas City goes, but he has started in the league, and that's a step up of Brandon Knight and the other guys before this year, right? So we know that the offensive line is not going to be looking too hot heading into Washington. We also know that the Washington football team is pretty decent, pretty solid on defense, and it all starts with that front four, that defensive line. Now, I believe Matt Ioannidis is out for the year, but they still have two really good run-stopping defensive tackles, and Daron Payne and Jonathan Allen. And they just have a lot of first-round picks and young talent on that defensive line, man. So now we can go to defensive end, where it gets even better. Chase Young, the number 2 pick of the draft this year, who's going to be a monster for a decade to come, and a real problem for us as Dallas Cowboys fans. Can't think of his backup's name right off the top of my head, but I know he's a pretty decent player too from a big school. Then on that other side, you have Ryan Kerrigan. You have Montez Sweat, who's one of the faster pass rushers in the NFL. So their defense has been playing at a pretty decent level, and they got the defense coordinator Jack Del Rio, former coach from the Oakland Raiders, former Jacksonville Jaguars head coach, and he knows how to run a pretty darn good defense. So there's definitely room to be concerned if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan. I'm going to assume that they're just going to send a house, because they have good coverage corners, and they're also good tacklers. So we haven't proven that we can beat that, right? With our offensive line in shambles right now, it's kind of hard to see a path for that offense to protect Andy Dalton and put up points. And really the only thing we can do is be just good enough and be able to let Zeke go out there and do his thing. And right now, this game is going to be all on Zeke's shoulders. If he shows up and fumbles the ball once or twice, it's pretty much over from there, in my opinion. I don't think we can come back from something like that. Now, Washington's offense isn't the most explosive in the world. Offensive line isn't really their problem, but they don't have a ton of weapons, and their quarterback situation's a little odd right now. So a couple weeks back, Dwayne Haskins kind of got benched out of nowhere. Now, from what I understood from the media is that he had not been working as hard as he was before he earned that starting job once he was named the starter. And the coaching staff didn't really like his attitude and that sort of thing. I talked to Ed Oliver in our video yesterday that got posted, which was a great interview, by the way. I'm really glad Ed got to come on, and really appreciate that. So go check out his channel. He covers the Washington football team, and he's the brand ambassador for the Washington football team on Fan to Fan Network, where I write for the Dallas Cowboys and Law Nation. But what Ed was basically telling me is that he didn't like that they gave Dwayne Haskins such a short leash. And I mean, it makes sense, right? You spend a a high round pick on a guy who hasn't really come in and lit the NFL up, but at the same time, he hasn't been horrible, and he's shown flashes, and he's young, and you haven't put great weapons around him to build around yet, besides Scary Terry. So you'd think they'd give him more of a chance. It's kind of like they're just giving up on him, pissed him off. He wants to get traded now, and that's probably what's going to happen. So as a Texas A&M fan and as a guy that lives in the Carolinas, I've seen plenty of Kyle Allen. And he played under Ron Rivera for the Carolina Panthers and actually looked pretty decent at times. Now, not all the time, but his time in Texas A&M was cut short. I believe he transferred to the University of Houston, and I was never really a big fan of his at Texas A&M, not because I don't like him as a person, just because I didn't love how he produced on the football field. Now, he's not bad. He's capable, and when I say that, I mean there's some quarterbacks in the NFL that arguably aren't capable, so I'm not going to name any names, but he's, you know, is there a big drop-off right now between Andy Dalton and Kyle Allen? Probably not. You know, I haven't watched a lot of Kyle Allen tape lately, but when he's decent, he's not a bad quarterback. When he's not turning the ball over multiple times a game, and you could get either game from Kyle Allen. You could get the 3-touchdown, no turnover game, or you could get the 1 touchdown, 2 interception game. He's capable of both. I'll point that out. But if I'm looking at their weapons, their run game, they got some depth, but they don't have anybody that jumps out, right? So the rookie, it's Antonio Gibson out of Memphis. And from what Ed Oliver was telling me, he's more of a pass-catching running back. So he's not really an every-down back, but they're working on just getting him more reps. We know that Adrian Peterson has been a Cowboys killer in the past. Well, he's gone now. He's in Detroit. And they're going to focus on Peyton Barber, J.D. McKissick. These are all solid running backs that have played in the NFL, good role players, but none of these are really starting caliber running backs. Now, at the same time, if they rush for 100 yards and don't turn the ball over twice, then they're better than Zeke was last week, right? So we know that our team has had a hard time at stopping the run, and it starts at defensive tackle and ends with linebacker. But it'll be interesting to see how we can handle them. Because we saw against Cleveland, some nights if we can't stop the run regardless who's in the backfield and running the ball. So guys like J.D. McKissick, Peyton Barber, Antonio Gibson, they're definitely capable. And when you're playing a team like us, anybody could go off and run. Although on paper, we should win that battle, right? We should win the run game. Zeke should have a pretty decent game. I mean, they're not bad at stopping the run by any means, but they're not as good as Seattle. They're not as good as Cleveland, but neither is Arizona, and they still did a mighty fine job. So it's really tough for me to say what's going to go on there. Now, if I'm going to talk more about the coverage in Washington, they added 2 guys this offseason that have turned out to be really good signings. One was more of a depth signing, and Ronald Darby, defensive back, kind of small slot guy, and Kendall Fuller. And Kendall Fuller's just really impressed me this year. He's arguably top 3 or 4 defensive backs in the league as far as just his coverage skills goes. And he's a really good tackler as well. And that kind of goes understated for the defensive back position in the NFL. So it's going to be tough for Andy Dalton. It's going to be a long day for him because we know the pass rush is going to be there. And we know that the coverage skills are there too. And we saw a team like Arizona who has good defensive backs and good safeties. And Landon Collins, I believe, is in Washington as well. And we struggle with that, right? So even our really good wide receivers didn't have a field day against Arizona, and they may not against Washington either. But somebody I expect to step up and have a big day. Who knows who it's going to be? Against Arizona, it was Amari Cooper. I'm not sure who Fuller's going to be covering, so it probably won't be that guy, but it'll either be Gallup, Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, maybe 1 or 2 of the above. I wouldn't be surprised if Gallup has a big game just because he rarely plays poorly, and he played pretty poorly last week, right? So I'd like to see him step up. Hopefully Dalton Schultz will have a big day. I don't think I'm going to predict a score. I see a path to victory for the Cowboys, but we know if we play as bad as we did against the Arizona Cardinals, against the Cleveland Browns, that sort of thing, we're not winning games in the NFL. We're not winning very many games. Maybe you beat the Giants, which we barely did, maybe you could beat a team like the Jets, which we don't get to play this year, but they beat us last year, right? So it's going to be a tough path moving forward. If we're going to try and get 8 wins this season, that's going to be very tough. That's probably shooting for the moon right now. But if we think we're going to win 6 to 8 games, then this is kind of a must win. You got to beat Washington at least once, because we played some of the easier games in the schedule and we've lost some of them. Moving forward, you got to play the Baltimore Ravens. You got to play the Eagles, who just look pretty decent against the Ravens, even without both of their tight ends. And you got to play the Pittsburgh Steelers, who look like a legitimate contender this week. So, guys, I wish I could tell you that things are looking bright, but right now it's looking a little bleak. Now, I'm not going to predict us to lose because I just don't know what to expect right now. If I was a betting man, I would say that the team's kind of shown us who they are, right? And we're probably going to come out the same way that we've been coming out, and it's going to look a lot like that Cardinals game. I don't want us to lose, so I'm not going to make that prediction again this week. But at the same time, man, you see what our offensive line is. We just have all these injuries, and you see what they're bringing on that defensive side of the football in Washington. Now, the one thing we can do that is in our hands is, 1, don't turn the freaking ball over. And 2, just make the play calling a little bit better. And when I say that, I mean stop with all these screens to Zeke and Pollard and the little bubble screens to the wide receiver. You're doing like 10 of those a game altogether, and it's just not working right now. And if you can't stop the blitz, if that doesn't work, and it's not like it's a bad play call against the blitz, because the screen is a good play call against the blitz sometimes. But we're not executing them well. And it shows me that we're not really capable of executing a screen well. So what I want to see us do this week is run a little misdirections with Zeke and Pollard. Keep both of them on the field sometimes, like you did against the New York Giants, because that kept the defense on their toes. And also have a little pre-snap motion. Maybe hand the ball off to Michael Gallup or Amari Cooper or CD Lamb just on a motion play. And then maybe try that again, except give it to the running back that play, that kind of thing. So just constant motion. And that'll keep the defense on their toes, and that'll keep them scared to send the whole house and just pressure Dalton and stop the run the whole entire game. Now, the only other thing I would say is maybe sprinkle in a couple trick plays. We saw it early in the season against the Rams. I think we saw it a little against the Giants, especially the throw to Dak, and now we know he's hurt. But the trick plays, they work sometimes, and we got to use them in must-win games too. I mean, we didn't use a single trick play. I didn't notice much pre-snap motion or any misdirection against the Arizona Cardinals, and we got smoked that game. So let's not stick to the same thing. Let's mix things up, because the last thing we want to do is go out there with the same exact game plan, the same exact execution against a better team, arguably. Actually, I take that back. Not I was thinking the Giants, not a better team than the Cardinals, but even still against any team in the NFL and expect a different result, right? That's what I'm trying to say. You can't do the same thing and over again that's failing and expect it to succeed. And that's why I'm not sold on Mike Nolan at this point. And we'll see what happens moving forward, guys. Do me a big favor and leave me a like and a comment, and just comment what your thoughts are on this game this week. Do you think I'm spot on? Do you think it's going to be rough? Or do you think this is going to be a signature Cowboys victory? I sure hope so. I just don't see it. And definitely don't forget to smash that subscribe button. And that's it for today, guys. I'm out. Peace!